ratio. So that 30% credit utilization we're talking about, that can be impacted if your creditor lowers your limit when you owe them, when you have a balance on it. So I saw that a lot happen at the very beginning of COVID too, because everyone was very nervous about what credit was going to do, what lending was going to do. So the getting married doesn't merge the credit reports. However, when you go apply for a mortgage, or if you're going to apply for a joint account, whether it's a car loan or anything, they'll look at both scores. If you've ever had a mortgage credit report run, you'll often see the husband and wife, or husband and husband, wife and wife, however the couple is set up, you'll see the scores side by side. And occasionally the lender will say, oh, we need to take one of you off because the score is lowering the ability for us to lend at a good interest rate, that kind of thing. And remember that your spouse's debt may affect you at some point. At this point, I'm going to talk very quickly about student loans, because spouse's debt may affect you brings that up. So a lot of people think that if you have student loan debt, that's a separate debt that will never affect your spouse or a future spouse or anything like that. But if you're in a community property state like California, if you have student loans and you get married and you default on them, your student loan lender can actually go after the wages of your spouse as a community property issue. And so a lot of times we're talking about the spouse's debt affecting you in the future. That's what we're talking about, is creditors can go after both of your wages for separate debt. There are ways around that. There's some really good advice you can get for premarital agreements, prenups and things like that. And a lot of times people think prenups are, oh, one's rich and one's not, and the rich one wants to protect their assets. You can actually protect yourself from your spouse's debts by having a prenup done. And so something to consider, at least think about how getting married, and talk about finances before you get married, because it's a very, very tough topic for married couples. And about 44% of divorces these days are due to financial issues. So it's a really important topic to bring up. And so going back to I make good money, doesn't my income help my credit score? So it is nowhere on your credit report. It will help you in an application for lending for a mortgage company, a car loan. They'll help you for all of those things, because they're going to look to see how much debt you have versus how much income. But if you don't have enough income to make your payments, at least minimum payments, and if you can only make minimum payments, I would still argue you may have a problem if you can only make minimums. Your credit score will start suffering. And so sometimes we see this domino effect, or like a downhill snowball gathering snow as it goes down, because once one payment is late, the credit score goes down. Then you're trying to either refinance or consolidate debt and trying to get back on track. And by your credit score dropping, you're now much riskier, and those options become fewer and fewer as your credit score starts dropping. So I always tell people to find out what they should do before they're in trouble. So if you're only able to make minimum payments on your debt, definitely want to find out what you should be doing to set yourself up to get out of that situation. I make all my payments on time, but my score is low. Why? So most often I will have people make an appointment with me, and they'll tell me they have a credit problem. And so we're going to do a credit report review and take a look at everything. And most of the time, the problem isn't a credit score problem, it's a debt problem. So the amount of debt that you're carrying on cards is probably impacting your score the most. And one question that just came in was, what can I do quickly to raise my credit score? The best thing, or the quickest thing to do to raise your credit score, is bring your balances down below 30% of your limit. So when someone comes in and they have the ability to pay things down, oftentimes we'll go through and we'll make a list of which account should get how much money paid towards them in order to have below 30% of the balance. And sometimes that's a quick fix. Sometimes if the limits are pretty high and that's several $1,000s to do that, we have to have more strategy involved. But the quickest way to raise your credit score is to pay down balances down below that 30% limit. And if that's just one card, a lot of times your credit score can be low because you're only using one card, but you're mixing it out each month. So what that looks like is, let's say you have a Costco credit card and you put all of your expenses on, and it's like $6,000 a month for all of your